To our other top story tonight, more surrounding Tyler Robinson, the accused killer of Charlie Kirk. Thanks for joining us. I'm Brian Malecki.
And I'm Mika Miyashima. Robinson's defense team may be growing, and there's a change for his Monday court date. He'll appear virtually. Our Kristen McPeak is live tonight, and why a virtual appearance rather than in person?
Well, to start, there could be security reasons for this change. Also, another possibility is that the defense counsel may be cautious about having their defendant appear in shackles. On Monday, Tyler Robinson's case is back in court. The Utah County Attorney's Office calls it essentially a status hearing to make sure the case is on track. Two main issues to be addressed: formalizing defense counsel and making sure there is an open line of communication between the prosecution and defense. Meanwhile, Governor Cox getting national attention following the murder of Charlie Kirk. Cox will be on 60 Minutes Sunday night.
I'm trying to get people to stop shooting each other. That's it.
Not many knew Utah's governor before the assassination of Charlie Kirk.
And now Robinson remains behind bars in the special housing unit, which requires increased supervision. And we'll have crews covering that court appearance on Monday morning that starts at 10 a.m. Live in Salt Lake City, Kristen McPeak, KUTV 2 News.
Okay, Kristen, and Tyler Robinson's defense will likely not be cheap, and taxpayers in Utah County will pay for it. At least 3 attorneys could represent Robinson at the hearing on Monday. They're private lawyers, but will be paid with taxpayer money.
The Utah County Public Defender's Office does not defend capital murder cases. This week, Utah County commissioners reportedly approved $1 million for both Robinson's defense and to hire more prosecutors. And you can stick with 2 News for coverage on the case. You can watch the governor's interview on 60 Minutes tomorrow right here on Channel 2 at 6 p.m. That will be right after 2 News at 5.
Tyler Robinson, the man accused of killing Charlie Kirk on UVU's campus, is expected in court tomorrow morning.
It will be a virtual appearance in Utah County. So what should we expect from tomorrow's court hearing? Our Natalie Wattis has more from a criminal defense attorney. And Natalie, what is she saying?
Well, I'm told tomorrow's hearing is expected to be simple and quick, but the timeline for this case as a whole is expected to be anything but.
Monday morning will be the first date that he gets to appear in court with his now appointed attorney. My guess is the court will just make sure that his attorney is willing to accept the appointment, place that on the record, and probably just set further dates for status conferences.
Criminal defense attorney Sky Lazaro is not affiliated with the case, but weighed in on what we can expect the process of this highly publicized case to look like.
I think there's probably some discovery that needs to be exchanged. In addition, it sounds like this is still an ongoing investigation.
Robinson, 22, is being held in the Utah County Jail. After this short hearing, Lazaro says
the attorneys will get to work. I would assume that his court-appointed attorney is going to need to add some people to our staff. They'll need to get mitigation experts on board because this is a death penalty case.
She expects another status hearing in a month or so.
He is entitled to a detention hearing. However, in Utah, the likelihood that he'll be released pending trial is probably non-existent.
She says with so much going on in the case, she would not expect it to resolve quickly.
Death penalty cases usually take years to get through the system, just because of the nature of everything that needs to go into them, on the mitigation side, on the defense side, on the prosecution side. So I wouldn't even expect a preliminary hearing in this case anytime soon.
Now, Lazaro says in felony cases, the defendant doesn't have to enter a plea until after the preliminary hearing, which, as you just heard, may be a while here. Live in Salt Lake City, Natalie Wattis, KUTV 2 News.
Okay, Natalie, and continuing coverage since Charlie Kirk's assassination, Governor Cox has been talking about trying to understand one another, listening despite differences.
And tonight he shared that message on the national stage on 60 Minutes, pushing for an end to violence and respectful dialogue.
In this moment, what's at stake?
Scott, I don't think it's hyperbole to say that the future of our country is at stake. This grand experiment that we embarked on 250 years ago, can we hold together?
And what if our politics cannot find the path to the brighter light?
That's the question I always ask. When I hear people say that we're at war, I say, okay, and what? What does that mean? What is next? Who am I supposed to shoot now?
Cox also returned to UVU, urging students to rely on themselves for change, not politicians. 60 Minutes asked if Cox might run for president, and he said he has no interest in a race for the White House. In southern Utah, about 100 people gathered in St. George tonight to sign a Peace Over Polarization proclamation.
The statement was written by Washington County residents following the fatal shooting of Kirk at UVU. It calls for an end to celebrating violence, rejecting labels and stereotypes, denouncing abuse of authority, and promoting civil discourse. Organizers say the goal is to inspire unity and hold each other to a higher standard.
We got introduced to the world in maybe the ugliest way we could have, but the people here are standing up and showing what we're about and who we really are. And this kind of a gathering where the people of the county came together, put it together, and we're calling on each other to do better, to be better. People are voluntarily showing up on a Sunday. I think that shows people who we are.
Attendees were asked to sign the document and urge lawmakers adopt the same pledge. Local, county, and state leaders all attended, including Congresswoman Celeste Malloy. She says grassroots organizing like this can help Southern Utah lead the way after tragedy.
Council, regardless of who is watching, whether it is the nation or a single individual, we must fulfill our roles with integrity, civility, and diligence. I encourage each of you to give your very best to this case.
The suspect in Charlie Kirk's assassination, Tyler Robinson, appeared in court today remotely. Former federal prosecutor and president of West Coast Trial Lawyers, Nima Rahmani, joining us. Not much accomplished, as you know, at this hearing today, but there is a massive volume of evidence that was referenced. What do you make of the decision not to show Robinson's face?
Dee Dee, you're right. Not a whole lot today. And the fact that we didn't see Tyler Robinson, it's really going to be the exception rather than the norm. His attorney made it clear that he's not going to waive his personal appearance. So we'll probably see him in court in person at that next hearing on October 30th. And Utah does allow for cameras in the courtroom. So expect to see him in person on camera during the next hearing, unless the judge rules that they're not going to televise the proceedings.
And you said at the defense team, they said they do not intend to waive that preliminary hearing. The judge set that again for October 30th, and Robinson is expected to be there in person. So what's your expectation then? And what impact could the suspect this time being there in person, what impact could that have?
Dee Dee, to proceed to a felony jury trial, the prosecution has to do one of two things: get a grand jury indictment or go to a preliminary hearing. That's essentially just a mini trial before the judge, and the judge needs to rule that there's enough probable cause to move forward. There's certainly, like you said, overwhelming evidence in this case that Robinson was indeed the shooter, but it does tend to give the defense some information. So sometimes they won't waive the preliminary hearing, even though it's a formality, so they can get information from the prosecution about the case. Now, they still may try to work out some sort of deal to try to save his life, or they may end up pleading guilty altogether and just moving to the penalty phase and argue to the jurors then that he should spend the rest of his life in prison and not be executed. But at least for now, we're going to have a prelim very soon.
Charlie Kirk's alleged killer, is it even possible to limit pretrial publicity if the prosecution is worried about that? I mean, I can't think of anyone who doesn't know of this case.
Oh, absolutely. It's going to be impossible to find 12 jurors that haven't heard about this case, haven't seen that horrific, gut-wrenching video of the assassination. So obviously, if you're defending this case, really your only job is probably to try to keep Tyler Robinson alive. That's going to be no easy task. I don't think this is the case that you're going to get a not guilty by any stretch. So whether it's pretrial negotiations, whether it's jury selection, or whether it's just convincing one or two jurors, that his life should be spared. That's going to be the defense's strategy here, because like you said, there's just so much evidence here.
Only 20 seconds left. The FBI investigating the deadly attack on a Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints chapel in Michigan. What sticks out to you about the suspect? We know that suspect was a veteran who's now deceased, and where authorities will be looking at for motive.
Dee, an incredibly sad case yesterday. And as far as the motive, I don't think we're going to spend a lot of time on it because, again, the suspect is deceased. There's going to be no criminal case. Really, all law enforcement is going to do is to find out if he was acting alone or not.
Nima Rahmani joining us tonight. Thank you for your analysis.
Thanks, Dee. Talk soon.
We are back out here live at Utah State University in Logan, where a Turning Point USA event wrapped up about an hour or two ago. Thousands of students here on campus. This was originally part of Charlie Kirk's tour, his campus tour that was continuing after the last election cycle. Many students wanting to show up tonight to carry on what happened and what started at Utah Valley University just 3 weeks ago when Kirk was assassinated in front of thousands of students who were there. Now, as we look forward, looking at a death penalty case and how it's taking shape, but exactly how prosecutors choose to build it remains a mystery. With numerous videos, throngs of witnesses, and a public shooting that sent shockwaves through a crowd, the strategy could go in multiple directions. Jim Spiewak investigates how both sides may build their case.
The discovery will most likely include dozens of videos, evidence collected at the scene and during that 33-hour manhunt for the suspect. Thousands of people were there as potential witnesses, some of which the state is still trying to track down, making this very public and very complex.
And we went into the amphitheater, and you could just see, all you could see was people.
As the vice president of TPUSA's UVU chapter, Beck Dishman was excited to see Charlie Kirk in Utah.
Just electric, the atmosphere, and that's what Charlie got to experience. So I'm very grateful for that.
But shortly after, everything changed. Beck was working a volunteer tent about 100 yards away and didn't see the shot, but heard it.
I thought it was a firework. Everyone was going to stand back up in a second. And then probably about 10 seconds later, I realized, oh, this might actually be something.
While Beck didn't witness the shooting, he knows people who did, people right next to the tent. And it's witnesses like that that prosecutors may want to interview as they build their case against Kirk's suspected shooter, Tyler Robinson.
The person that was at the microphone was not too far away from that bullet path. So having that person come into court and tell what he was able to hear, what he was able to see.
Nathan Evershed is not affiliated with this case, but has worked as a prosecutor and now a defense attorney.
If you are the prosecution, what do you think is step number one to build this case?
If I was the prosecutor on this case, I would be looking at the aggravating factor.
The prosecution has one aggravating factor making this a death penalty case, which is putting people other than Charlie Kirk at great risk of death. Evershed says that proving that beyond a reasonable doubt will include scene reconstruction, witness testimony, and even the path of the bullet.
They know that this is where the case is going to hinge, and so that's probably where they're starting off at right away.
Another key part of this case, prosecutors allege Robinson's parents helped facilitate his surrender.
Could we see them testifying against their own son?
And it looks like they are really key and important witnesses to this whole thing. That they provided an incredible amount of information. There's no privilege as his parents can get out of something like this. If you're subpoenaed by the state of Utah to testify, you have to testify, you have to answer questions, unlike spouses, for example.
Evershed predicts the defense knows the prosecution may focus the case around the aggravating factor of others being at great risk.
The defense is going to go over this individual's background in shooting, his awareness of firearms, how long he's been doing it, maybe how many hours or how many days or how many hunts he's been on, what that scope looked like, how many times he's used that.
If prosecutors get a conviction, Evershed says the next crucial portion will be for a jury to decide if death is the just sentence.
Does the aggravating circumstances outweigh the mitigating circumstances? And if they all unanimously agree on that, then they have to make the decision, is the death penalty the just penalty in this case?
Evershed says that he would not be surprised if the defense asked for a change of venue, but he also says the prosecution could argue because there is already so much attention on this case, moving the venue may not make much sense. I'm reporting in studio tonight, Jim Spiewak, KUTV 2 News.